Hi, it's Wednesday, it's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked, brought to you as always by Together 2012. I'm Jude Gosling, artist and artistic director of Together 2012. With me today in my East London studio, as always, is Julie Newman, our chair and also an artist in her own right. We're going to come back to us in a minute for some audio description as usual. That's for anybody who's visually impaired, anybody who's just listening, and anybody who, like me, has often got a dodgy internet connection. Over in our West Midlands studio, at the other end of our wheeled virtual sofa are...
Well, good afternoon. Hi, I'm Robin Surgeon. I'm the business director at Together 2012 and one of the main co-hosts of Together Unlocked TV up here in Sutton Coldfield in the north east of the West Midlands, for those who care. Yeah, and we have finally enjoyed some of that balmy weather you people down south have been having. And in fact, yesterday when I went out to work, my car said 32, which for September is kind of quite something, and I then melted ever so slightly, particularly then going into a hot pool. Anyway, so good afternoon. Yes, so I'm Robin, and so you know what I look like. I have boy band-ish grey hair with a white tinge to it today. I am wearing no rimmed, black-armed glasses. I have a pale complexion and still got blue eyes today. Very cleanly shaven, obviously going for that boy band look, but then throwing that off by on our 70th or something episode where we're at having to recycle some shirts. Now my wardrobe is exhausted, and I am wearing one of my favourite band t-shirts, which is a Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon t-shirt. So it's a black t-shirt with Pink Floyd and white writing, and then there is a very famous picture from Dark Side of the Moon cover, which is white light shining into one side of a prism, and then the rainbow colours being split by the prism and coming out the other side. That's it for me for there.
I've got to follow that. Hi, I'm Josh Surgeon. I'm also one of the hosts of Together Unlocked, and I'm a PhD student. If we're going with kind of musical descriptions, if you're a boy band on kind of 2000s indie band style hair, and then it's just a bit of a kind of flop mop at the moment because it needs a haircut. But yes, I have kind of long blonde hair that's swept over to the side, and I'm wearing a long sleeve black England rugby shirt.
Wonderful. Well, back here in East London, I have a short red-headed Corona crop, courtesy of the Dogs Clippers. I've got green eyes with black plastic framed glasses, black wrist braces, and silver jewellery. I never describe my jewellery usually, so I've got daisy and star stud earrings. I have silver rings, a pewter, I don't know if you'd call that a bangle, quite what you'd call it, Julie. You're the expert.
Handcuff.
A cuff, a wrist cuff on one of my braces. And I've also got a purple stone whale tail pendant. I don't know quite what the stone is. Julie, what do you look
and
like?
what does your t-shirt say?
Oh, and my t-shirt says Vinyl Vibes. It's a white t-shirt with Vinyl Vibes in a sort of reddy orange against a sort of background with some shapes which fortunately include a triangle. So we're somehow matching our t-shirts, Robin.
I'm not at all musical today, although I could be. I suppose I could be a bit folky, a bit agey, folky.
Yeah. Folky, not fogey.
That's it. Folky. That's me. I've got gold and silver hair. I've got dark glasses. I have a blue t-shirt, which is, I like the shade of this t-shirt. It's a sort of sax blue. It's got dancing hares and a Celtic knot in it. And I've got my cheapo smartwatch.
Thank you, Julie. So today is Poetry Day. We always celebrate this morning's pop-up poetry club with poems from those participants and indeed from others. We have our regular app date coming up after 3:15. We have Nature Watch again from Norfolk this week with Plurger's lovely assistant's dog Merlot. We have our Clockwork Paralympics. We have Josh's reports into gaming and sport and even more. But before we get started on that, I just want to say a big thank you to City Bridge Trust, who have just told us that for the next 6 months, they are going to fund the live captions that accompany this show. We introduced live captions in June thanks to global real-time captioning. If you watch this program on our website, you will find the captions embedded into the live stream, and we later add them to the recording that we post in the evening. We've been funding them, I'm not quite sure how, since June, but now City Bridge Trust have taken over and have also picked up the rest of the costs associated with this live stream. We are just so grateful. It's made such a difference to viewers. We know from the feedback we've had being able to access the show because of those captions. Global real-time captioning have very much become one of the team. So thank you again to City Bridge Trust, and we'll keep you updated with that. And of course, a huge thank you to everybody who plays the lottery, because our regular funding is mostly coming from Arts Council England and the Lottery Community Fund. So without lottery players, we wouldn't be here either. Julie, how did the poetry group go this morning? And welcome to Jinx, the tabby cat that's just joined us. We'll try and ignore her and hope she might go away.
Yeah, I'm trying desperately to ignore her, but it's a little bit difficult because of little claws. Poetry was lovely. It grows week by week. It grows, and we've got some brand new members, and we're welcoming back older members. Not old as in age, but members who've been around for a while. And it was, the theme this week was memorable journeys or journey. And Alison described it as a trip, or, going from one place to another, perhaps on holiday to school for the first time, but something that stands out in your mind. And everybody followed the theme.
And Alison's the programme leader.
She is indeed.
Yes, so we have a join in from home programme replacing, or well, not exactly replacing, because we're doing all sorts of other things too, but we usually run a clubs programme in East Ham on weekday mornings. That has been superseded by our digital year and our join in from home programme, of which this live stream is part. But Alison Marchant, and we'll hear one of her poems as well in a minute, is an international artist and also works part-time leading our year-round outreach programme, which we call our clubs programme. And she's choosing the themes each week, isn't she?
She is.
And the group is facilitated by Noel Guinan, who's our engagement support officer. And it's a phone group, isn't it?
It's a phone group. Plus, we've got a really nice volunteer who's been together for quite a while now, Taylor. And her contribution is invaluable. It's really insightful, and I think everybody really appreciates it.
And we pay for all of the costs of the phone calls. We phone you. So if there's anybody out there, particularly with a Newham connection, but you don't have to have, then let us know. We've got some information at the bottom of the screen. You can contact us on info@together2012.org.uk, and we can send you further details. It's a particularly useful group for people who don't have internet access and want to join in something creative. So if you're thinking of a friend, let them know and maybe contact us on their behalf. So again, that's info@together2012.org.uk. So how did it go this morning? You had new people, you had the theme of journeys.
We did. It was really interesting. One of our participants read out a song, Sentimental Journey. Well, he read it out as a poem, and my goodness, it was so different and very, very effective. It was a lovely change. It was something new that I don't think anybody had ever done before, but it worked very, very well. So we enjoyed that. Different people contributed poems that they had written, others that they had found. I found looking for source poems very interesting. I was surprised at how many I remembered from being a kid, you know, how they brought the good news from Ghent to Aix and Paul Revere's Ride and The Road Less Travelled, those sort of things. Plus, of course, John Masefield and his sea poems. So it was as an exercise, researching it was really, excuse me, really good.
So the way it works, Julie, is you have the theme, and then they research, if they can, a poem that somebody else has written on that theme and share it, or share one of their own. And then you sit down and all write poems. Well, and then Noel phones you again and you share them.
We have a break of about half an hour. Excuse me a sec. We have a break of about half an hour. And that during that time.
So you write it during that time, don't you?
Yeah.
I'm going to let you have a drink.
Thank you.
And I'm going to start off by reading one of the poems. And this is by Dawn Barber. And we were just chatting beforehand and saying how this poem really resonates with so many people in East London. And it's called Hastings. When I was young, I used to get so excited about going on holiday in Hastings with my mum, dad, and granddad. I used to love it, going through the Blackwall Tunnel, and then we got there, going into our caravan and going around shops and other things, going into the club at night. I used to get up and have a little dance. Lovely people, so very friendly. Thinking of having to go home was a little bit sad, but we knew we were going to come back to Hastings. And I thought that was very sweet and very evocative. And I love the way that she goes through the Blackwall Tunnel and then gets to Hastings. And I suspect that's by the time she got to sleep, because the tunnel is about a mile out of Newham, but it's a very, very long way from Hastings. Julie, are you able to read us your poem now?
Yeah, absolutely. The Daily Journey. Oh, bloody hell. I didn't see that one coming.
So for anybody who
Forgive.
we advertise this show as Narcic Pets. You know, fortunately, as we know, that's very popular on the internet. But Julie has just been, I don't know, love
Jumped on.
bombed. Like a huge shaggy black cat, Leonardo, who also interrupted the live stream just briefly on Monday. As we've already had this happy visit, and very often, I have to say, for anybody who thinks that all of the animals on the internet are completely bonkers, they don't always join in. But today, clearly, it's poetry. They absolutely love it. Do you want to try one more time, Julie?
Oh, yes. Let's have another. Forgive the swearing. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. Nothing apparently dreadful.
Right. Good. The Daily Journey. When he left the house and closed the door, we never wondered where he went or had been before. He would wave goodbye as he said farewell and travel on his way, gathering tales to tell. The time would pass and our days were full, playing out in the woods, loving the wind as it pulls the smells from the leaves that we crush underfoot, the trees standing tall, bushes dense with roots. When he comes home at the end of the day, we welcome him with stories and laugh at our play. He sometimes speaks of where he's gone, then hangs up his jacket and mows the lawn. We would travel to places impossible to name, and in a way he did the same. His world, unknown to us, remained a mystery, at the edge of his life, but part of our history.
Oh, thank you, Julie. I thought that was great. And it really brought back memories to me. Although my mother worked full time, she worked from home. And my father had a job which didn't involve him going to an office, but he was out most of the day. And you're right, that kind of this completely unknown world as they journey away from you. Robin, I think you're going to read us one from Duncan next, aren't we?
I am, yeah. So this is from Duncan Bridgestock. It's called Blank Canvas. And he describes it as the colourful world of jazz musicians' names and nicknames, a homage. Clifford Brown, trumpet, Afro-American. Sandy Brown, clarinet, Scotland. Pete Brown, alto sax, Afro-American. Lawrence Brown, trombone, Afro-American. Red Norvo, xylophone, USA. Red Allen, trumpet, Afro-American. Red Callender, double bass, Afro-American. Red Nichols, comet, USA. Red Garland, piano, Afro-American. Yellow Nunes, clarinet, Creole. Orange Kellin, clarinet, Sweden. Blue Mitchell, trumpet, Afro-American. Grant Green, guitar, Afro-American. Freddie Green, guitar, Afro-American. Bernie Green, trombone, Afro-American. Benny Green, piano, USA. Dave Green, double bass, UK. Irby Green, trombone, USA. Stanley Black, piano, UK. Brian Lemon, piano, UK. Wardell Gray, tenor sax, Afro-American. Michael White, clarinet, Afro-American. Duncan White, trumpet, Scotland.
Thank you. I thought you read that really well, as always with Duncan's. As we get more and more of Duncan's poems coming in, I get more and more keen to see his record collection as something that will probably never happen. But if you're listening to this, Duncan, we would love to see a photograph. So this is from Pies and Malloch, My Memorable Journey. My two hands holding the handle, or else I would be in trouble. My two little legs dangling down, swinging under my short gown. Sitting on a single metal bar for 4 miles is far. It happens on Sunday till Thursday, going and coming back every day. Cling, cling went the bell, pressed only when there's going to be hell. Wobbling to avoid stone and hole, keeping the balance to save our soul. If you can, please judge my travelling mode. Please guess my travelling mode. Full of anxiety in the sun and rain on the road. Anxiety to miss the obstacles, deep holes and pebbles. To stay in control, the very balancing like your legs while doing catwalk evening. I was sitting on the front bar on an old bicycle instead of a car. Thank you, Pizer. That was great. And another very evocative one of Pizer's childhood, which I believe was in Malaysia.
She was 5, she said, I think, when that happened. She remembers it so well. Yeah, she was.
And Pizer's also a member of our associate drama company, Act Up Newham. So finally, Julie, you have a poem from Alison, don't you?
Yes, I do. Alison said this was reminiscent of a journey that she used to take regularly in the Highlands of Scotland. It's called Shadow of a Journey. Remote oceans from a small ferry, deep blue, mountain mist along my sight, my line of sight. The listening winds received this song, her shadow. A deepening shade across the tide, transferred onto the flickering frames of a Super 8 film. This is the edge of what she has. A steady storm tearing against the wind, a soundtrack of Highlanders telling the story of the clearances. Then she's put in for information 1750 to 1850.
Sorry, the cat's just knocked a load of stuff over. Yes, and clawed Julie's leg, which is obviously critical as well, but she'll just get the schedule back up for us. And in the meantime, so moving on, but staying with poetry, you have one of your own for us, don't you, Robin?
I do, and I wrote this under the rules of Pop-Up Poetry Club, as in I did it in a half an hour window. I got the title from Julie this morning, or the reminder, and then wrote it so it fits the bill. So this is called I Am a Journeyman. Excitement or trepidation, overarching sensations that punctuate the changes that lead to destinations of unknown pleasures and serendipitous treasures. I am a journeyman, a travelling soul, not seeking determination, discovery the goal, no need to follow rails, no need to follow rules, foraging for freedom, not universal truths. I am not a hat stand. I am not a footstool or a gravestone. A meander, my primary focus, roots yet to be known, acquisitiveness, the practice, sensory wealth, the prize, every journey and education, a voyager realized. Every expedition, a curation of highs and lows, personal identity, the definition of growth. I am a journeyman, a craftsman of exploration. I will remember each experience until my expiration.
That was great, Robin. And what were you thinking when you were writing it?
Just how I go about life, I think, really. The vicariousness of the life of Robin Surgener.
Well, thanks for that. And finally, we have a film poem all the way from Ireland, and Karina Doon. And Karina is an artist whose work we've featured at a number of our film festivals, and she focuses on puppetry work. So let's pop this up.
Invisible Octopus by Karina Down. The reality of life with the unpronounceable illness myalgic encephalomyelitis is hidden and fragile. ME as invisible octopus, acting as puppeteer, keeping me upright or making me stumble at will, inflicting pain, challenging my brain, its crushing weight taking my breath away. Rosy cheeks, looking well, they say. Summer is coming. Happy thoughts will cure you. I live in a disbelieving world, my reality trivialized, dismissed. My full-time carers witness octopus's destruction. For others, I simply disappear into the shadows. I'm just one in this worldwide community of hermits, where freedom of movement is no longer a right. Transcending gravity, I fly among the birds, their beauty and harmony, uplifting and strengthening. After a short flight, octopus attacks, pinning me down, immobilized. Each moment is a death. Breathe. Each moment is a living. Finding peace in my solitude, I observe the dance of the trees. There's movement in stillness. My creative mind, the visible thread throughout this 22-year-long story, transforming pain into poetry.
And that was absolutely beautiful. For anybody who couldn't see it, it was really too complex to audio describe, but Karina had illustrated it with, I think they were probably paintings, but they were all silhouettes.
And is it her own artwork?
Yes, I believe so. Yes, I'm sure it is. Yes, I mean, she's a very, very talented artist, and I will put up a link to her channel and also to the YouTube version of this film on our highlights and links page. Under the main Together Unlocked TV menu on our website, you will find a number of other pages, including one all about the animal hosts. If you can see my camera wobbling at all, that would be Leonardo just rolling around next to it. But never mind, he's very sweet, really. So we're going to move swiftly on to our app date. So can I hear a dreadful pun?
Just what app doc?
I'm glad you asked that. So we might be a little bit quicker today as time has been taken up. But the latest news is the pilot is coming to a close this week in Newham. And that is because in another week's time, it will be rolled out across the UK. So they're going to take that week to take in all of the lessons, make a few changes. Probably not all of the changes that they may make later on, because as we've said before, there is a big difference once millions of people start using an app. But I think the central thing about it is the contact tracing, and it just works really, really well. And it was such a technical challenge. When your phone is switched off, how do you get it to recognize other people's phones? And the kind of technology that Apple and Google have had to put into the phones to say, Yes, Bluetooth can run in the background. It can take up almost no power. It can run when the rest of it's off, etc., etc. I'm as a bit of a geek myself. I'm kind of blown away by that, and also just how easy it is. It's so easy to download. It's so quick to install. It takes up hardly any space. The people we're dealing with are obviously not the people who were writing the code, but I'd certainly like to shake their hands. We've got a meeting tomorrow, as it happens, a kind of private meeting to give more of the final feedback. So, again, if you're out there listening, if you're in Newham, please let us know. How have you found the app? If you haven't downloaded it yet, you still can. If you're not in Newham, then let us know what should we be looking for. We still have another 24 hours and probably a bit longer, to be honest. I'm sure I'm still going to be in correspondence next week. So anything that's been an access barrier for you or something that is a real plus for you, particularly if you've got perhaps kind of individual needs, that would be very helpful to know. We've already given quite a lot of feedback, thanks to the surgeoners who don't themselves live in Newham, about how easy it is or not to scan a QR code if you have difficulty lifting your phone up. And I think that will all go in and be taken lots of notice of, and it's already kind of impacted on where people are putting up posters. So any more questions? I think
so. We don't have to do anything. It'll just be taken off of our phones, will it, at the end of our trial?
No, it will turn into a real app, as it were. Well, it is a real app now. No, I think that's the thing. At the moment, if we download the app, we have to put a special code in because it's already sitting in the app stores, but most people aren't allowed to download it till they get up the updated version. What I understand from the app development team is that almost all updates will just take place automatically. That may or may not always be the case because, of course, it's such new technology. But to the best of my knowledge, no, we just carry on using the app. They will effectively take out the requirement to put a code in, and that's all that's going to happen.
What about people who are partially sighted or blind?
I think I'm not an expert enough to know, but what I do understand is the simpler something is, the easier it is to use when it's voice activated. But we could certainly do with more feedback. And I think one of the difficulties, certainly that we've found with our own friends, is that the rules around contact and social care and so on and so forth have meant that people who would usually get somebody else to do all their tech for them, whether that was because they're visually impaired, they have learning difficulties, they're not very confident, has really kind of those things have stopped. And what we're very, very keen to do as an organisation, Together 2012, is to start empowering people to feel a bit more confident to do it themselves. And that's one of the reasons we really like to know what works, because we can implement that. You know, the NHS want to make this the best app they possibly can. So, and so do all of us. So if there are things that really work for you as somebody who's got dyslexia, dyscalculus, you can't see properly, you know, any of these issues, and you think there are things we should look out for or information that we should provide, then absolutely do let us know. But I think our goal for all of us is that we're all going to become, yes, more proficient at whatever we do. And I think this digital year has been such a learning curve for everybody, because wherever we started in terms of technology, we've all had to do something different. And I don't know anybody who hasn't had to do something different.
I mean, I was going to say to Julie's question, certainly for iPhones have a huge accessibility section in them, one of which is called VoiceOver. I think it used to be called Screen Speak, but I think they now call it VoiceOver, that will basically tell you what's on your screen and kind of read it out to you. I never used it because I don't need to, but it goes as far as to, it would kind of describe images to you, and this is a tree or a dog or whatever. I think it can do some kind of really powerful things. And even if you just need it, there's a magnifier to just make it bigger if that's all you need. If you do have more limited vision, you do need something like that. That is kind of already built in, certainly for iPhones. I don't know about Androids because I've never used one. But kind of that software, that capacity is already there. So I imagine it will simply be open the app, do what you would do through anything else, and it will just tell you what's on the screen.
And I was going to say, I mean, I'd have thought that on the grounds that this stuff isn't going away anytime soon, that the next kind of iteration, the next kind of versions they're going to be looking at is actually that it alerts you to the fact that it's going to do it, in the same way as you go somewhere and it'll tell you there's Wi-Fi. You know, if they can almost build that into the Wi-Fi system so that your phone says there's a track and trace running here, or, you know, however it work. I'm not.
Well, what will happen now is whenever you go into a hospitality venue, which is a sort of huge kind of overarching term from anything to sort of cafes and restaurants, pubs, bars, and a whole range of other things, is that you will have to give your contact details. But alternatively, and I think we've picked this up before, if the app is successful in its ambition of being registered as a medical device, you may not have to do that if you're using the app. But you will always be asked to either scan a QR code poster as you enter a venue, hand over your details, or at the moment, if people are taking part in the app pilot, both. So the days where you could just sort of go in and out are sadly gone. And this is another reason why we are so keen to really focus on digital empowerment, because from now on, actually, you have to pre-book. So you want to go to the cinema, you can't just take that option of walking in and hoping that the place you want to see is free. All of these things are going to require booking. So we're going to be keeping App Date as a regular Monday feature going forward from next week. We will, of course, continue to monitor the app, report back on progress, get your feedback, send that back to the NHS. But also talking much more generally, as we have already been doing, about different apps that we use for art and photography, but also for access. We haven't been a digital organisation in the past, so we don't hold all of that expertise, but we do have an engagement support worker who is learning all the time. It would, however, be helpful, Josh, anything you know as our resident nerd about the iPhone. We can't afford iPhones for all of our staff, and Noel runs on Android. So if there's any iPhone tips we can pass over to Noel to support iPhone users. And of course, if you're listening and you've got tips that we can share with viewers, that would be great. The ideal for us is to have people on the show showing us how they do it. So please do send us your videos and screen recordings. But we're going to move on now. It's Wednesday, so it must be Nature Watch, where all of us who've been shielding, or who indeed wouldn't be able to get out the house without support anyway, see the outside world through the eyes and ears of a dog. Usually, until the last few weeks, it's been Julie's assistant's dog, Precious, trundling around my tiny little garden.
She's resting.
Yeah, this is an expression that I saw at the weekend, and I absolutely love it. It's when you've got a yard that you've tried to turn into a garden, it's a yarden. And I've realised that that's what I have. It's not a yard, and it's definitely not a small garden, because whenever I get a book about small gardens, they're at least 4 times the size, but it's a yarden. But yes, Precious is resting. So Merlot is temporarily up in Norfolk with Stara and Hannah, and this is his walk through the hay. So a nice kind of peaceful, relaxing, a bit of slow TV for a couple of minutes before we move on. So just to give a bit of audio description, the camera is mounted on a harness on Merlot's back. So we can just see his dear little head going forward. He's a black Labrador retriever, and he's an autism support dog. And he seems to be going through a very kind of, well, in fact, I really ought to hand over to Julie, because she used to have a small holding. What kind of field is this, Julie?
Variable, actually. It had some sort of grass, but it's got hay blocks, hay bales, hay that's been baled into blocks, rectangles onto the side. And I noticed there was what looked like some sort of maize or corn on the other side. He's going over some rough ground at the moment. It's sort of like natural planting, I would say. So there's lots of weeds and lots to look at. And he's galloping back now with his little ears flapping back to Stera and Hannah. He's shaking his little head and he's having a lovely time. That he's they're by the bales of hay, and he's having a little look round. He's having a little mooch around again, just in case there's something that he's missed the first time. And he's looking back to his mummy, and he's sort of having another little shake, which, as Precious knows, is very important. But lovely, lovely little film.
Yes, and also what's becoming increasingly popular, and we say it's slow TV, where nothing much happens. And that was a lovely blue sky as well. Love the kind of green of the grass, the blue of the sky. And you could tell from the shaking that he'd got the microphone on, but there was no noise. That must be very, very strange for them after Newham. So, as we said at the beginning, this live stream comes to you as part of our Join In From Home program. So, I'm just going to put a film on next to tell you a little bit more about it. A Join In From Home program from our website, together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages, you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. All of our activities can be enjoyed by families at home, but we also have some of our favourite activities here from our family activity days, which we usually hold in the school holidays. Card making with pens, stickers and paper is also popular. You can show someone you're thinking of them by making them a special card, and if it can't be delivered safely, then send a photograph with a personal message or keep it till later. Here we have instructions for making a sock puppet, a storage jar or night light, or a lunchbox or storage box, all of which are really popular with our family activity days. And you can click on each of these links to get full instructions. So with the sock puppet, for example, you have lots of instructions with photographs to show you exactly what to do. Same with the storage jar. And same with the lunchbox or storage box. And you can see how effective it is just to use very, very simple techniques. Everyone is completely unique. The Pop-Up Poetry Club meets on a Wednesday morning. We also run regular poetry projects and poetry cafes. We're inviting you to write or sign a poem on the theme of Together and send it to us to share on social media. We're also going to be publishing an anthology of the Together poems in November, and everybody who contributes will get a copy of the physical book. Not really sure why the mutes didn't work the first time round, guys, but yours weren't either.
No, it wouldn't go on, and then it wouldn't come off.
So we call these Google glitches because they seem to be glitches that seem to be more connected to the platform we're using than anything else we can do about it. So our regular weekly Clockwork Paralympics. Our competitor this week is a new teddy bear, and its name is Ash. And it's called Ash in memory of a dear friend we made in Canada. So Ash is a black furry bear with brown nose, brown paws, and he has a Canadian maple leaf on his foot. And when we were in Canada working on our vibrations project, we brought him back. He's a little bit chewed looking because the dog had him first.
Well, we have the reappearance of Tom from last week. He was very disappointed with his performance of doing nothing but going around in circles, certainly with his representative athlete. So Tom was the logo from the 2016 Rio Paralympics, not the logo, the mascot, indeed. And he's made up of features of rainforest plants and other kind of verbiage that comes out of Brazil, and it's and things grow out of his head. It's meant to represent the magic of creatures coming out of the rainforest, I believe.
Oh, love it. Did you bring him back? Did you go?
You weren't there, but Emily really wanted one. So I texted my friend who was there competing and said, "Can you buy me one?" Oh. So she did. So.
And for anybody who's thinking it's a strange teddy bear, we're kind of given up saying that to them. But officially, we are taking part in the International Virtual Bear Hunt. So you will always see a teddy bear in the East London studio each week. We tend to swap competitors each week, but the Surgeoners being the most competitive family in the world, it's not good enough till that one's got a medal. So we are playing for our usual gold plastic London 2012 medal given out to the community by the Mayor. What are you playing for?
We thought we'd match a Paralympic teddy with a Paralympic medal.
So this is
not surprised me.
This is a proper gold medal from the Seoul Paralympics. So I will describe it very briefly because it has a picture of the stadium from Seoul on one side, and on the other side, in fact, matching this mascot, has the mascot from the Seoul Paralympics, which is two teddy bears doing a three-legged race. So,
there's a link there somewhere, guys, isn't there? It's just not always as obvious as it might be. So for anybody who's new to this, I race 2 Clockwork toys. They choose their competitor afterwards and we see who wins. Do you want the one in my right hand or my left hand?
So we're having the one that you release from your right hand, which will be on the left of the screen as we watch.
And well, it's usually a matter of seconds because it's a bit of a sprint, but we'll see if we can get some audio description in.
So yeah, we're yet to find out what our competitors are today. Are we back on the well, yes, I believe. Although out of shot. That was so quick. That was from your right hand as well, Ju. So I do believe, Tom, you have actually been successful this week. So we shall award you with your gold medal.
There we go.
Yes, it's about time.
I don't know if we actually reached the finish line. But what we didn't do is go backwards past the start line. So we will take it as
I'll give you that.
Total race distance. Whether that was full or not, I think we'll take the win.
You will. Yes, they do have a disturbing tendency to go round and round. I live in a cottage that was quite badly damaged in the war. When I moved in 85, they said, well, there's not a straight line in the building, but it's been like that for 40 years already. So whatever I do, and it's become like curling, I clean the floor, I hoover it. They still do have a tendency to kind of go anywhere but off track. And some of my purchases, I thought my collection had just got a bit rusty, so I've got a few more ones, but they've actually been some of the oddest of the lot. Well, Ash will take part in the virtual bear hunt and sit up behind us anyway in front of our lovely graffiti banner, which shows all the activities we do. I will hang up our London 2012 medal for another week and say the best competitor won.
Or we was robbed.
Whichever perspective you prefer to take. So this is now time to hand over to Josh for virtual sports and gaming report.
Yeah, so we'll do a little bit of sport first. So, like we said, it is still within the dates of when the Rio Paralympics were. So the closing ceremony of the Rio Paralympics is actually, or it was, the coming Friday, the 18th of September. So I'll bring it up again on Friday for something for the weekend. But if anybody wants to rewatch the closing ceremony to remind yourselves of what it used to be like when you could have more than 6 people, then that full kind of 3.5-hour show, I think, is available on the Paralympic Games YouTube channel. So you can watch that to your heart's content. In some more kind of actual sport that's happening soon, last week, the International Swimming League held their kind of big online media afternoon press conference to announce all of the details about the new season. Now, I appreciate it may only be the 2 of us in the Birmingham office that are remotely interested in any of this, but it's kind of a big international kind of competition.
And are they going back to London? Have we got the schedule?
At the moment, it's starting in Budapest on the 16th of October. At least that's the planned one.
Before
I think it's
further, Josh, though, I'd like to say I think lots of people are interested in swimming, probably more than a lot of other sports, because it's a very accessible sport at every level. And it's nice to see, people like yourselves who can do it very, very well and train other people to do it very, very well. But everybody can swim, or at least theoretically. And I think for disabled people, it's often the only accessible sport. And water, you can just do so many things in with your own body that, on land, you've got to have wheelchairs and things. I'm really enjoying learning a little bit more. I think, of course, just amongst the 4 of us, you've only got to look at the people who can't see the point in going round and round and round in circles as compared to the people who prefer other things. But that makes life interesting. So yeah, don't assume we might not know much, but we're certainly interested.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of the ISL is to make swimming more accessible. And
what does ISL stand for?
International Swimming League, sorry. To make it kind of more accessible and to turn it into a TV sport, basically. The whole idea is, it only gets seen by people that aren't swimmers once every 4 years on the Olympics. So, having seen it both on TV and in person, it's all about music and light shows and fancy graphics, and it's all sprint stuff, and it's kind of back to back, bang bang bang, loads of events really quickly that are all kind of finals.
Yeah, and the theatre, as you talk about the theatre of sport, it is very much that. It is presented with flashing lights and big bangs, and there's a live DJ playing music and stuff. Kind of even once as they're racing, they kind of only stop the music for the take your mark, beep, and then it's bang on with full like club music and stuff. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, to kind of turn it into that spectator sport that it potentially isn't for some people. I just thought that was interesting, and things are starting to come back. Whether that changes. I know some of the Australian swimmers have been told they can't go because of travel restrictions and things, but it's nice to know that there is progress. Things are slowly trickling back open, and they're taking huge precautions, and there's quarantine bubbles and all sorts of things. So it just shows that if you are doing it right, then it can happen. Anyway, moving on because of the time, very quickly to finish on some gaming. I mentioned on Friday about kind of virtual board games over the weekend. So I kind of had a look, and there's a deal on the iTunes store to get a number of different games, but I only brought one. So I brought Monopoly. And it's great. It's all digital. So there's 4 different ways you can play it. There's a single player when you play against 3 other computers. There's an online multiplayer with just random people. you can play it as a kind of task one. So if there's 3 of you in a room, you pass your phone or iPad or whatever round. Or you can do online multiplayer with friends. So if you wanted a game with me and Penny, we could all have it on our individual phones in Newham, Hastings, and Birmingham, and we could play against each other. But what I like about it is you can also just play it single player. Monopoly by yourself doesn't really work. Whereas if you can play it against the computer, you can still there's some sense of competition, and you can set all the different kind of custom rules and all those house rules.
There's no custom rules. There are Monopoly rules.
Yeah,
none of this. Put your fines in free parking and get them if you land.
Yeah, you have the option of
maybe we won't
original rules, and then you can set your own ones.
quite that soon.
And there's other options of games and things on there, but I think it was really interesting. We talked a little bit about kind of playing board games and ways to get kind of interaction. And it's great if you live with other people, but if you live by yourself and you want to play a board game by yourself, then you can do that. Or if you can also play it online. I haven't tried it online. That is also an option.
And I haven't tried Monopoly, but I've played not so much recently, but I did a lot of Scrabble online.
Yeah, Words with Friends.
Yeah, which is exactly that. And you make friends because you can do it with somebody that but you can just call for a random opponent and be playing with someone in Budapest.
Yeah.
Or wherever. I'm hoping that they're not as good at English as you.
I always used to cheat.
Oh no,
Julie Newman, you should not say that kind of thing on public broadcasting, honestly.
I used to set up housing co-ops. I'd buy one on each thing so nobody else could really do anything. You really, really don't want to play with us, and I don't want to play with her.
It's like anti-Monopoly. That's
I used to get bored in Scrabble and just decide, okay, well, I'll just show my tiles to everybody else. And playing Monopoly, I used to play right hand against left hand.
I have to say, I'm not entirely convinced about Julian's Scrabble because we have a long history of camping with friends coming down to join us and then playing Scrabble till very, very late at night because of who's got the biggest total of games to them. But Julie was used to insist that she was tucked up in bed and the rest of us were sort of sitting outside in the cold and much less comfortable. So you seem to do really well like that, didn't you?
Them's the odds, kid.
Oh, I'm just a poor naive soul. So what else have you got to recommend for us, Josh?
that was kind of the main two things that I was going to talk about. There's also kind of Xbox have now released, or Microsoft have released their info about their new games console. So it's called the Xbox One X, which is kind of the super duper flash kind of next gen super powerful one. But they also have something called the Xbox One S, which is also coming out, which is kind of the budget version. For anyone that is kind of Apple products, you have the iPhone whatever, and then they have the iPhone SE, which is a kind of streamlined, more kind of entry level one. But something that I thought was really interesting, because they're kind of 450 and 200 and something pound kind of outright respectively. But they're also doing it as on like monthly, so kind of like a phone contract. So I know for the Xbox One S, which is the cheaper one, I think it's £20.99 a month. And that gives you the console and then a subscription to kind of the free game service and things.
Oh, that's cool.
And I thought it was a really interesting kind of way of doing it, for those people that can't, don't have £300 to, in one go to spend on a games console. That actually, you can do, the same as you would with a phone. You can spread it out over however many months. And I just thought that was a really interesting kind of way of kind of approaching it with the new systems.
I think it is, but I feel obliged, particularly given our duty of care, to point out that actually that's quite a big commitment. If you've already got, if you're putting away lots of money each month into a savings account and you feel like you don't really want to invest that in a console, but you'd like to put less into saving. But yeah, I think in terms of a household budget, an extra 20 quid is a lot to find for many
Yes.
people. So I do worry that what they're trying to do is trap people into gaming who can't afford to do it. I saw a very interesting article in Guardian Online today, and that is completely free to access. And it was a guide to gaming for complete beginners like ourselves. And it went through the different options, which seem to really come down to phone games, Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation. It looked at all of the benefits of not buying the latest Xbox or PlayStation in terms of pricing and the products that were already on the market, and the games that have been around for a long time being that much cheaper.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say is, and it's always kind of a tech hack. Wait for the new one to be released and then buy the old one for a fraction of the price. And that's what I did with, I can't remember what it was. I think it was my iPad that I have. I kind of waited for, I kind of like, I need a new one for some work. And it was a need. And I was like, when's the new one coming out? And it's like, oh, it's coming out in like 2 weeks. I was like, great. So I waited for the announcement and then went to the shop, and it was like £150 cheaper than it was the day before. I was like, great. Brought it for like pennies, and then kind of the week after when the new one came out, it then went back up to its normal price. I don't entirely know why they did that, but they seem to do that quite often, kind of around announcements. The old one gets really cheap. So yeah, it's always an option as well.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things the Guardian pointed out is that sort of more general terms that, if you want to play family games with younger children, Nintendo is the way to go. Xbox and PlayStation, it might be a different, just really about which games you're into. But the phone games, and particularly the free phone games, seem to be really coming into their own. So yes, we did invest in a console this summer. Like you say, we got a PlayStation 4. There was no way I was waiting for a 5 and spending out all that money, but I managed to get a reasonable deal. And it was something to do because we weren't going to go on holiday. But I still feel that, you love your free games on the iPad, don't you? And they all run on the phone. I mostly play games on my phone, which are free games. So, yeah, there's certainly plenty of choice if you're not thinking of investing. But one of the things the Guardian was pointing out, of course, is that for everybody who did go away, and all the people who couldn't afford to go away, there's a lot of us who, are exploring gaming for the first time and taking our time about it, because we know we've got 6 to 9 months with plenty of time to focus on it. But that's bringing us to the end of our show. We still have a very large cat plonked in front of us, and dogs barking in the background, I hope not connected. So on Friday,
Could I just finish today's poetry? Next week's theme is rhythm.
I was going to come to that. So
Sorry,
coming up
yes.
on Friday, we have our usual features. We dress up to go out to stay in. We'd love to see your photos of you dressed up. Maybe you are dressing up to go out before the rule of 6 came in, or maybe you're going to a very beautiful party or function for 6. We would love to see you dressed up, but you don't actually have to go out at all. You can dress up to go out to stay in for anything you want, real or imaginary. We also have our feature, Something for the Weekend, where we recommend things that you can do, mostly free, not always, online or offline without leaving your house. And of course, we have our usual programme of the arts, including visual arts. Do send us your drawing and paintings. We'd love to see them and to share them with viewers. If you would like to join in the poetry from home, then do send us your poems. And the theme is, Julie?
Rhythm.
So the theme for that is rhythm. So that's it from East London. Final words from the West Midlands?
Just really enjoy yourselves, actually. Get creative, stay home, stay safe, make something new.
And if you live in Newham and you haven't downloaded the NHS COVID-19 app, now is a very good time to do it, and everybody else will get the opportunity next Thursday. So we'll see you on Friday.
Bye.